Randomizer is something where we take Zelda Link to the Past and toss everything around. What are they going to get and where? Well, we don't know. Starting with this first chest, a full heart container. So, feeling a little bit of love, something nice to find at the beginning of the seed.
Yeah, that little extra insurance helps, especially if you get one of the more tricky weapons in the randomized weapons start here. Uncle, of course, is going to provide us with one of the possible damage-dealing items, but we never know what until we get there. Today, I'm hoping that we're going to see something exciting, like either the hammer or perhaps the bow. I'm just really enjoying seeds that end up getting those two weapons first. What about you?
Definitely bow's my favorite weapon, and oh no, they got the bombs.
Oh, bomb
So
strats.
the one good thing though is this does guarantee that they have, as long as they're careful, they're going to have the one bomb needed.
Wow!
And finding the sword, wow.
So that makes it a nice and easy escape sequence. You couldn't ask for a better loadout at this point. The sword, of course, is just going to make everything trivial. Bomb means you don't even have to farm. You're going to actually spend a lot of time just dodging enemies here. There's no need to spend any additional time. We should see a very quick exit of this sequence.
Absolutely. Really, the only thing that they're looking for at this point is to get to around 70 rupees so they can be in a good position to buy whatever it is from the bottle vendor in Kakariko Village. But yeah, other than that, they're going to be able to breeze through this pretty quickly. We should be seeing times right around that 6-minute mark this time around.
Yep. Wulfy gets a real nice spin there on the blue guard, and the hook shot out of this chest in escape. This sequence is, or this seed is not pulling any punches. It's going to give them all sorts of goodies. Both of our runners, of course, switching to the hook shot for movement technique here. That things up just a little. Wulfy's slightly ahead at this point, but it's anybody's game still.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those things about playing through Randomizer and pretty much playing through Zelda in general is all these techniques that these runners use to optimize the speed at which they can move. And while it may seem trivial at the time, those seconds do add up.
So Cowutopia takes a few seconds there to determine what the stun prize is on that green guard. We saw it was 8 bombs, so that's going to be nice at the start, not so useful later on in the game.
Yeah, now they don't have to worry about a thing. Probably the best one I've ever seen was where the stun prize was a fairy. And
that's a nice one, yeah.
Yeah.
I also enjoy it if it's like full magic. I think that's a real nice.
Oh, and Zelda holding on to another full heart container, so both of these runners at 5 hearts before they've even gone through half of escape.
Yeah, this is a very healthy start. Cowutopia, of course, playing Zelda, leading Zelda out of the dungeon. Very interesting. Always kind of a funny thing to see. And Wulfy today as Bunny Link. So 2 unique and interesting. Now, here's the funny thing. I noticed this. Cowutopia having to fight that green guard a second time. I'm not sure exactly what triggers that glitch, but it's always really annoying when it does take place.
Yeah, that is interesting. And another one of the really neat things about Randomizer, very, very talented people have made a whole bunch of custom sprites. I believe at this point we're well over 100. Pretty much any popular character you can think of is probably represented in some fashion, and it makes it a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, and just the variety is kind of interesting. Some very funny ones, but some other standard ones. A lot of the choices that people make are based on their favorite characters from these various games. The one that I almost never see, and the one that my personal favorite that I always put on, is the Tingle sprite. People just don't love Tingle like I do, and I never get to see him. I'm excited and hoping for somebody to be playing as him at some point in this tournament.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. My personal favorite is is Samus, the one with an oversized head that I think is absolutely adorable. And yeah, I have not seen anybody else playing as Samus. Wulfy finding just a single green rupee in the Dark Cross room.
Yeah, the Zero Suit Samus gets a lot of play, but regular Samus, you're right, absolutely Not happening too often. At this point, we still have not yet seen the map, so that could potentially be the chest at the end of Sanctuary. We're going to find out when we open up the 3 chests in the back of Escape. Of course, with the bomb strats, with the bomb start, it really is very obvious that our runners are going to be able to open this particular area up. And so Wulfy's going to give us a look at these 3 chests. Ooh, a big 20 and a fire rod.
Very nice. To address Rywek in chat, I am Sco Davis.
And I'm that other guy. So a fire rod to start is actually really nice. You have access to Skull Woods when we get there. It's going to be available immediately. Also, we have a fire source, so if Tower of Hera is required and the basement is necessary, that's going to be something that our runners won't have to hunt for. As well, the Desert Palace. And as we leave at just about 6 minutes, the escape sequence, we pick up a hammer from this chest. So our runners are in a really good position for this early part of the game.
My goodness, yes. Of course, the hammer being one of the 3 items required for Dark World access, the other 2 being a lift upgrade and the Moon Pearl. And so far, this seed has been extremely nice to these players. We'll have to see if this luck holds out or if it goes dry sometime.
Wulfy dodges that bird just to pull on the tree, finds that it's arrows. And the bush crab is going to be providing us with a single rupee each drop. Nothing to write home about. Wulfy deciding that he's going to go inside the lumberjack hut for a moment. Forgets that it's actually the back area he wants to check out. And he sees, looked like a 50 rupee.
Yeah, 50 rupees. So far, nothing to indicate that Agnum is required. However, it's still definitely possible.
Wulfy was thinking that we were playing entrance randomizer still, so unfortunately for him, that was a small time waste that allows Cow to catch up a little bit. We see a big heart in the mushroom location, or sorry, a piece of heart in the mushroom location. Nothing worth picking up. Both of our runners reject that and are heading down into the bandits' hideaway where they find 3 more bombs. Unfortunately, they didn't really use very many so far, so that's not even something that they were happy to see.
Yeah, our very own weapons dealer, the uncle, gave them bombs at the beginning, but then the next chest being a sword, they never had to use them except for the one secret room during escape. So definitely a very easy, or you could say an almost vanilla start to the game.
Mm-hmm. So now with all of the checks at Kakariko Village, there's so many places to go. We get a nice map check here, seeing that we have Crystal Tower of Hera, Crystal Eastern Palace, and a pendant desert is what I saw. It was the red pendant in the desert.
Yes, red pendant in the desert, and Eastern is 4, Tower of Hera is 2. So 2 pendants and both of the 5-6 crystals will be found in the Dark World, as both players completely synced up, getting 2 300 rupee containers and some arrows and the mirror. Wow. And
wow.
5 rupees on top of that. So both of these players flush with money. We could definitely see an early sword play or Zora play, especially if we find the Moon Pearl before too long.
Mm-hmm. I agree, absolutely. So that was a pretty nice blind hut. Now we're going to go to the next dense location for items here. Cow is actually going to take a look at his map as he falls into the well. Another 5 items to be checked here. Just a big 20 in that first chest. Wulfy's going to head to the back, and we will see that the second item located here is a set of 3 bombs. Nothing exceptional. A 5-bomb upgrade. The Master Sword already. That does give us another trigger that could potentially lead us down the Aga path. We still, of course, would need the lantern at this point.
And the bottle vendor just giving a 5-arrow upgrade. So, but these players are already in a pretty good position. In this early game, they already have 2 sword upgrades, the hookshot, the hammer, and the mirror. No immediate progression, but certain. Okay, wow. Speaking of progression, how about a flute right in Kakariko Village where they can go activate it right away?
Yeah, so apparently you have the anti-caster's curse going on. now. So if you want to keep doing that, we might end up with the Jet Seed.
And I would say, I mean, there's still obviously the entire area of Southlight Hyrule to explore, but with the flute and the mirror, that opens up Tower of Hera. They also have the hook shot where they can get over to the right side of Death Mountain.
Yeah, they do also as well. They have the hammer, so they could go from the top down as well. So they literally have a lot of overworld access at this time. Our last check here in Kakariko Village is the back of the tavern, just an extra 100 rupees. Both of our runners in happily able to take that Zora check in the event that they feel like fake flippering. I would say that if I were in their shoes, I'd probably hold off on that just because, even if I did find the Moon Pearl, just because there's so much else to check. So 20 rupees there on the library.
Yeah, and I like to point out another interesting thing about Randomizer is they've randomized a whole bunch of what people say. So people like the Uncle and Blind and some other characters and NPCs give you some kind of a random thing. And it's always interesting to see what people are going to say. And Wulfy picking up a heart piece inside the dam, and he's going to flood the water and see what's outside.
Yeah, again, both of our runners making the exact same choice here, so just a few momentary seconds separating them. +5 bomb capacity upgrade there, floating under the water in the dam, so neither of our runners, I imagine, are going to take that. And they're going to run their way over to the mini Moldorm cave with sword beams. It's going to be a nice, easy clear, unless, of course, they take some damage, which both of them did along the path, so going to have to use the hook shot.
Yeah, Mini Moldorm Cave having 5 potential items, so here we go. We got the red boomerang, a piece of heart, 50 rupees, 300 rupees, and another 20 rupees. So this is a very rich seed. No other immediate progression coming from here, and we'll see where they go next if they choose to do Ice Rod Cave or go elsewhere.
Yeah, they've set up the flute. Now, when you don't have boots, the flute is actually the fastest way to get to Ice Rod Cave. Taking this one step over, it adds a little bit of time, and that looks like what both of our runners are choosing to do in this case. Wulfy's got to be a little careful there. Those crabs have put him down into the sub-2 hearts, the 2 hearts, and they will kill you in green mail when you only have 2 hearts. Yeah,
some good sword work, and he took him out and was able to get into Ice Rod Cave safely.
Both of our runners being quick on the menuing, making sure that they have the next item available. The Moon Pearl here might change Wulfy's mind about what he wants to do, but he still has the flute active. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Yeah,
Wulfy activating his flute, and Cowutopia looks like doing the same thing.
Wulfy's
and checking, desert area.
Now, I like what Wulfy's doing here. Agina Cave is has a very high percentage chance of progression just in general at this point, and getting a look at what's on the desert ledge as well as going into this cave is something that is not always easy to route in, so I kind of like the very early play on this. Meanwhile, Cowutopia swims past the island in Lake Hyliad, sees that there's a sword upgrade there. Wulfy just finding a piece of heart for his troubles, so it was a gamble, but it could have paid off, and it, unfortunately for him at this point, didn't really give him any additional progression.
Yeah, Cowutopia does have now that advantage of trying out, or going past that island and seeing that red sword. Not everybody does that route, and now it looks like Wulfy is heading directly up to Death Mountain, whereas Cowutopia has decided probably to head up to Zora Domain and spend some of those well-earned rupees to see what Zora has today.
Yeah, at this point, there's really no right or wrong call to make. It's just going to come down to randomizer luck. Who's going to find the next kind of major progression item first? It could very well be that there's nothing in both of these locations, and that they're going to have to try one of the dungeons available to them, like Tower of Hera, for that. Now, and if that is the case, Wulfy's kind of positioning himself to be in a slightly better position to enter the Tower of Hera. Since he's already up on the mountain. But of course, you never know what you're going to find. Cowutopia grabbing half magic there. A real nice find when you already have the fire rod.
Yeah, that fire rod, doing the same amount of damage as a sword swing from the red sword, so it has just become a very potent weapon that can be used very often. And seeing Zora Ledger just having the 20 rupees, we know for sure we won't have to come back this direction again. And Cowutopia is going to give Zora $500 and see what we have. Meanwhile, Wulfy inside of Spectacle Rock Cave and finding just 3 bombs, so he'll be saying no thank you to that.
Yep. He'll head up top and we'll be seeing our first dungeon, a fairly early crystal, in just a few moments up in Tower of Hera. Now, I would assume that Cowutopia is going to probably follow suit.
And the top of Spectacle Rock Cave has yet another heart container, so both of these runners in a very good position now, especially since they're still in the light world.
Cow waits for the swag duck to take him up the mountain, and I assume he's going to go and rescue the old man as well. I mean, Wolf finds the big key at the first spot, which tells us that, or gives us a hope that we won't have to go into the basement.
And Wulfy choosing to skip the second floor chest there in favor of going directly up the tower.
I mean, you could always enter in again if you don't find all your items. We'll see if that's something that happens, but strange little routing choice, I think. It's only a few seconds to go look there, but we'll see if it pays off.
Well, as you and I were talking before the race, when we've both commentated runs that are where the difference is under 20 seconds, every single one of those decisions could be the thing that separates win from loss.
Yeah, they definitely add up over time. So Wulfy finding a key there tells us that it's very likely he might have left something in that chest down there, and he'll have to enter it up. Now, look at that. We find the Titans, or the Power Gloves, our first lift upgrade, in the big key chest. That's really nice. That's going to give us actual Dark World access at this point, killing our Agaseed.
Yeah, this has definitely been an unusually fast start to the game. Within, we're only just under 18 minutes in, and we already know that this is not an Agnum Seed. And Wulfy heading into the Moldorm fight, and we'll find out if he gets item number 2 or junk.
Yep, we haven't quite guaranteed the requirement of the basement yet because he left that one chest downstairs. So if he gets an item here and an item out of that chest, he won't have to do the basement, but we'll see in just a few moments.
And Wulfy with very nice hammer strats. That can be a pretty challenging fight. Only getting the compass, so he will have to continue.
Yes, you're right. He'll have to continue, and he'll have to come back in here. That's 2 orphaned items that you just can't really afford to leave early on, I don't think. It's just kind of an awkward feeling. So Cow's going to show us what one of the 2 items that he would have missed was. It was the... Oh, there we go.
So that means we are going to look at the basement if Wulfy decides to check that.
He's thinking about it, but I really think that you have to make that check on an early dungeon.
Yeah, this dungeon was available very early. I mean, it is a little bit of a pain to waste about 40 seconds dodging the titles, but it's even more of a pain if you have to come back later.
Wulfy manages to get the coffee big skip there. You can see on his screen that his sprite is currently flashing, which tells us that, yep, he is invulnerable. Cowutopia is about to go and grab his Power Glove.
Yeah, and this early in the game, we're actually still pretty close, even though we had a little bit of a route divergence with Wulfy checking Desert and Cowutopia checking Zora's Domain. Wulfy finding just a piece of heart in the basement chest, so that's it for Tower of Hera. And it's probably time to go and explore the right side of Death Mountain.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be had here. I would imagine he's going to go down Spiral Cave and then head back up the Paradox Cave. Just kind of seems the natural path that most people like to run. You might stop by and take a look at what's on the floating island first. Sees it's a big 20, so you'll remember that for later.
And the nice thing is, if for some reason the Titan's mitts end up being in either Spiral or Paradox Cave, he'll be able to immediately do the Dark World Death Mountain for another 6 items.
Yeah, that's always a real nice feeling, and you don't have to make this climb again until it's time to go into perhaps Gannet's Tower or Turtle Rock if it's necessary. Really is a nice way to kind of speed things up for a runner. Just 50 rupees here at the bottom of Spiral Cave, though. And Cowutopia, meanwhile, has decided to avoid. He's making a gamble here. He's risking that thing. Turns out it's the right call.
Absolutely.
In the event that he gets trolled later on by the seed, though, he may feel like he should have gone in there. It'll be interesting to see if that can impact him later on, where he's looking for a single item and goes, oh, maybe I should go check Hera Basement. We'll see if that comes back to haunt him at some point.
Yeah, Wulfy in Paradox Cave, checking the first 2 chests, finding the flippers and another set of bombs.
Yeah, now that might actually logically signal him to head and check those areas that Cowutopia's already checked. We'll see if that is the case. The only thing he'll get out of that is the half magic, but not a bad thing to find.
Well, and there's those Titans mitts. So, and a Bombos medallion and the Cane of Samaria.
We may be moments from go mode at this point. It's almost possible. We haven't seen what the Dark World chests are yet, of course, so we don't know. But that was amazing. You should probably continue to try to predict what's going to happen, because you're 2 for 2 at this point.
Yeah. So, wouldn't it be really cool if, let's say, the first cave has the boots? How about that?
So
I think that'd be kind of cool.
On top of that, the flippers showing us that Swamp is a pendant, along with Skull Woods. Our 5-6 are Turtle Rock and Palace of Darkness. So very interesting seed layout, considering the items that we already have at this point.
Yeah, and I think with them having everything that they need in order to complete Swamp Palace this early, it may be a little bit disheartening to see that being a pendant dungeon.
Yeah, I agree. Silver Arrows here in Super Bunny Cave, so just more value. Death Mountain is where it's at today.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, Cow got a little attacked by that dead rock. Didn't even hit it. It was a live dead rock there that was being frustrating.
And Wulfy heading around to Turtle Rock, finding it's the Ether Medallion required to open that up, which they don't have yet.
I mean, they don't have until they enter Hype Cave, right? Where we find Ice Rod and Ether? Is that what you're suggesting?
You never know with this seed. Wulfy now exploring Hookshot Cave, finding 20 rupees. Our first bottle with a B in it this time around. The Fisher Price, My First Shield. And for the 4th chest, the lamp. How about that?
Wow, these runners are getting set up with all the goodies that they could possibly want, really, at this point. 24 minutes in, and several dungeons are now fully completable bin logic. Really, there's not too much that they could want for. Of course, the bow is going to be what they really would like, and some of our chat friends are suggesting the horrible nature that it might be on something like the pedestal. It can, in fact, be there based on the dungeons that are pendant dungeons.
Well, let's see. At this point, let's see. Pod was a pendant, which means the bow cannot be on the pedestal.
Pod's one of the 5-6 crystals.
Oh, it is. Okay, sorry, my mistake.
Our pendants are swamp, skullwoods, and desert. Hype Cave giving us a mushroom, really, and that's about it as far as hype. A little bit of a letdown there.
So what do we need for go mode right now? We need the bow, we need the ice rod, and we need at least one other medallion. And I think that's it as far as what we know right now.
Yeah, ether for sure. Boots are probably somewhat likely, or you would desire them at the very least. So
And
Kyle's gonna stop by and fill that bottle with some blue goo. He's got the flute. He likes to have that for just insurance sake. And there's the bow on Stumpy. So,
wow!
25 minutes in, and we are armed for bear. We're really just hunting for the ice rod now, and at least the ether medallion.
Yeah, so it's all about ice in one way or another, this particular seed. And Wulfy finding just a big 20. And, not only do they have the bow, but they found that those early silver arrows in Super Bunny Cave. So they're going to be having a lot of fun on some of these bosses.
Oh, absolutely. What a stunning start for this seed. Wulfy's going to be able to take the southern route. So is Cow. Going to be able to take the southern route up into the Village of Outcasts because they have the Titan Smith. So we'll see Dig Game first at this point. And let's just give him a count.
An interesting thing about the dig game is when a seed is generated, it automatically selects a random number between 1 and 30, and regardless of where you dig on the screen, that dig number is where the item, in this case just 5 rupees, is going to be.
Yep, 19 dig, kind of a significant amount. Where's Cow heading at this point? He's going to actually go grab that Titan, that Tempered Sword. I actually like this play. You don't know when you're going to find it, and it is going to shorten up a lot of potential boss fights. If Wulfy never makes this call and doesn't find the Tempered Sword until much later, it could be a dramatic impact on his performance through some of these bosses that he'll have to be facing soon.
Yeah, and at this point, we know what King Zora had. It is entirely possible, depending on the location of some of these other items, that he may never have any reason to go back to Lake Hylia.
Exactly. And Cowutopia is going to pull the trigger on Ice Palace. He remembers that he has all of the necessary items to finish this off, especially Half Magic is really nice. Tempered Sword, of course, is going to make the boss fight very easy to manage, even at this sure. Lot of item potential in this dungeon. Of course, it's a nicer to go mode than to not, but I like this call. It's a gutsy move.
Oh, like you said, it is a crystal dungeon. They can complete it, and considering the vast majority of runners really dislike this dungeon, getting it out of the way is probably just a little bit of peace of mind.
Yeah, I think that's partly the case. It's also just, he's got to go somewhere first. Wulfy's setting up the fake powder check here. Oh, doesn't quite get it on the first try. Or the second try. It's kind of frustrating. What you have to do is you have to switch from the cane into the mushroom and use it while the horn is still kind of sounding, just about finished. But there he gets it on his third attempt. Cursed with a piece of heart.
Meanwhile, Cowutopia, as he plunges into the depths of Ice Palace, that first chest, which I believe is the compass or map chest in the vanilla game, did have the small key, which is going to make checking 3 item locations on the right side of this palace a lot easier.
Yeah, that really does help having that extra key for the routing of this. The bomb jump here, Cow, I can tell you, as any of the 3-1 players, is going to have had a lot of practice doing this. It may take a try or two, but there you go. I cursed him this time, but not going to really be a struggle for anyone at this level of play.
And Wulfy checking the sick kid now that he has the bottle and finding just 3 bombs. We continue this tradition of people in Hyrule just having a lot of access to really dangerous weapons. I've seen him have a sword, a magical cane, a fire rod, and now bombs.
And yeah, see, as you said earlier, because he picked up this key, he's able to head through this door at this point, which is going to allow a very quick access to these last three, or these middle three chest locations, which is really kind of a nice way to route this if you have the opportunity.
Yeah, Ice Palace having 2 items, or 3 items rather, and we haven't found any of them just yet. Cowutopia just finding the compass in the first of the 3 chests. Meanwhile, Wulfy finding just a piece of heart in the chest game.
Mm-hmm. There's Cow's first item out of Ice Palace was a full heart container.
That's a really nice find in the Ice Palace. You know, no matter how well equipped you are in the weapons department, Cold Stare can do a massive amount of damage, especially if you have the green mail. So any extra hearts is definitely welcomed.
I agree, and now that you mentioned it, I think that this was definitely a planned action by Cow. If we recall, he went and got that blue pot before he even came down here with his flute. So I think he was thinking all along that he's going to check this just to see if it puts him in a little bit more advantageous position, just because a lot of runners would probably choose to avoid Ice Palace at an early juncture.
And Wulfy finding the big key in the second of 4 chests in this first area of Thieves Town. Meanwhile, Cowutopia continuing his trip.
Yeah, he's got to get over now to the iced tea room. Still looking for the big key as well. He hasn't been able to open the big key chest. Wulfy grabs another piece of heart. This one is enough to complete a heart container for him to give him a nice little health refill. And then the final chest is another piece of heart. So Wulfy's exhausted all of the items here in the front part of Thieves Town. He's going to head to the back now, and we'll see what we find there.
Yeah, Thieves Town having 4 unique items, and usually completable fairly early in the game because of its relatively low requirements. And Cowutopia now finding the big key in the iced tea room, so now he'll be able to check the chests on the far left-hand side, or rather the big chest. I guess.
Yeah, well, at this point, I wonder if he'll choose. He's already found 2 out of the 3 potential items here in Ice Palace, so he may choose instead to just go right to Cold Stare, see if he gets an item off that before deciding whether or not to come back in. Well, I guess it's on the way. He has the. I forgot that he has the hookshot at this point, so he's just gonna try to make. Ooh, missed the hookshot, skip that first try. I got it on the second one though.
And the magic powder.
Magic powder.
Which, a very nice safety item. Of course, as a fetch quest item, we know it's not going to get him anything, but certainly having the ability to turn anti-fairies into fairies is very, very nice.
Yeah, some people in chat have pointed out that the Thieves Town indicator on Cowutopia's side is incorrectly marked as a pedestal. Yeah, it is at this time. Of course, that's just on our end. It's certainly not what Cowutopia would have it assigned as. So we'll see what shouldn't affect his ability to progress through this tournament or through the seed.
And Cowutopia making quick work
Yeah, that was
of Cold Stare.
Very nice early Cold Stare fight. When you have the green mail only, you can't ask for a much better run through that. A difficult dungeon out of the way early.
And he has 2 crystals, and we'll see where he chooses to go next. They're definitely not short on options at this point.
Wulfy sees that gets that key in Thieves Town that will allow him to check the big key house chest.
And just a 5-arrow upgrade in the big key chest. Meanwhile, looks like Cowutopia is going to head to the Dark World and I'm guessing we'll probably see a hype cave check. Or has he
Yeah,
already done that?
I think he did the hype cave before he checked Ice Palace. So I'm guessing he's going to take the south route now up through Grove and into Village of Outcasts because he has not yet done that. This is going to net him the bow, which is going to open up Palace of Darkness and Eastern Palace for him. Also going to make some other areas seem much easier. Mire, of course, if it's Bombos, is going to feel really nice to have silver arrows for that Vitreous fight.
And Blind's pun of wisdom today is that chimney sweeps wear a soot and tie.
So funny. So what I find very interesting here is something that is kind of an unexpected thing that you learn while playing this game and while watching a lot of randomizer seeds. We see here that Cowutopia managed to pull ahead. Like, Ice Palace is typically considered a long dungeon. It turns out that without the boots, it seems that Thieves Town was a lot longer for Wulfy to get through. So kind of an interesting little piece of information to file away if you're a runner or if you're another person who plays this, that is in fact something to know.
Yeah, both of these runners now have 2 crystals apiece, and looks like Cowutopia is definitely going to be checking out Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town. Meanwhile, Wulfy picking up the purple lunchbox and gonna take that over to the thief and see what's in there.
So just to recap, we're looking for the Ice Rod and Ether Medallion at this point, potentially Quake. We have not yet seen what's going on in Misery Mire, but it looks like Wulfy's about to give us that information in just a few moments. We've already seen what Desert Ledge is, so we know that it is just a capacity upgrade. And here we go. In just a few more seconds, we'll see that it is Bombo, so Mire is openable. So that does mean that we are 2 short items away from go mode at this point.
That's pretty amazing. At only, 37 minutes into the seed, these players are in great position. Wulfy finding another bottle with a B inside of the Mire shed, and now heading over to check out Checkerboard Cave, and we'll see if it has something good, like, I don't know, maybe an Ether Medallion would be nice at this point.
I mean, you almost kind of, as a runner, I would say you almost don't want to find a go mode item at this point. Like, the boots really would probably make you feel a lot better, just to kind of have for sure go mode instead of theoretical go mode. The worst feeling ever would if you go through all of the remaining dungeons, don't get the boots, and then find Ganon's Tower Big Key on that torch.
And Wulfy choosing not to go into Misery Mire at this point. Instead, it looks like he's going to head over to Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, it's kind of I like this play better than going into Misery Mire. It's a high-density item dungeon. It's also one of the 5/6 crystals, so it's going to unlock even more potential items afterwards. So it's really just kind of a better overall call. You're more likely to find your progression here. Plus, Misery Mire is a nice, fast go mode dungeon if you get lucky on finding the big key.
Absolutely, and of course, Palace of Darkness having 5 unique items, so definitely, as you say, an item-rich location. Wulfy, of course, checking out Shish Kebab's hut. We haven't had anybody go over into the eastern area yet, so this is going to be a new check for us as well, finding 3 bombs, the Quake medallion, and 3 more bombs. So now we have every medallion except for the one they need.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he knows that Quake is not one he wants, so not going to feel good about finding that particular medallion at this juncture. This does also mean that that both Wulfy and Cow, when they do head over to Palace of Darkness, Eastern Palace, neither of them will have set foot there yet, so neither wasted any time, and they're going to be able to do them one right for another with making use of the mirror here.
Yeah, this has been a very interesting seed in that so much was available so early. What I would consider kind of a more traditional route of checking out Eastern Palace and Shish Kebab early was not necessary simply because of the vast number of items they got to open things up in the early game.
Yeah, that Death Mountain situation where they managed to find a whole bunch of goodies in the Paradox Cave, and then including their access to Dark Death Mountain. Cowutopia now is going to head back into the Dark World here. I'd be most likely inclined to believe he'll hit up Thieves Town first, since Skullwoods is a pendant. And that does seem to be where he is intending to go.
Yeah, the general rule of thumb for most players is, if it's a crystal dungeon and you can complete it, go for it.
Well, yeah, especially in a situation like this where they have plenty of options. Those pendants, you're going to want to steer really clear of them until you absolutely have to go in them. Just because there's literally way more likelihood that you're going to find what you want in these many pendant or crystal dungeons at this time. Of course, that'll change should they make their way through several of these dungeons, finding not either of the items they need. We'll see what happens.
And Wulfy getting an upgrade to the Fire Shield. I believe that's the first unique item that we found in this dungeon, which tends to be front-loaded with keys.
Yeah, there are 6 keys in the classic dungeons, I believe. So that's a lot to be found.
And I'd say with Wulfy, we're most likely going to see a Silver Arrow strat taking down Helmelsaur King, since he does not have the benefit of the red red sword just yet.
Mm-hmm. What will be really interesting is if and when he decides to take a look at Lake Hylia Island.
Yeah, I'm guessing he will probably take a look at it at some point, because he will have to go to Ice Palace, and when you're in the water before you warp to the Dark World, it's only a couple seconds out of the way to check that island.
Yeah, unless of course he's in go mode at that stage and he's just making straight beelines. But you're right, there's a good chance he'll get there. It just depends on when he makes that call. So we have a great question in the chat by one of our viewers here asking, what does it mean? We keep talking about ped seeds. What's a ped seed? So in the original Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past game, the first 3 dungeons in the Light World all gave pendants, which would, when you combined all 3, the pendant of courage, the pendant of power, and the pendant of wisdom, you were able to pull the Master Sword out of the pedestal and get yourself progression through the game. Now, of course, because this is randomizer and everything's all mixed up, it's not the Master Sword on that pedestal. It could be any number of items. And so it still requires all 3 pendants to get. But most runners, because it's not necessary to complete the game, hope to avoid that. In this case, the people viewing generally like it when that happens, because we're all at heart troll. And so I understand where they're coming from.
Well, and Wulfy getting some literacy by finding the Book of Medora in the Dark Maze. So we have a definite fetch quest item. It could also be used to read what is on the Master Sword pedestal. Not sure if we're going to see that. Yeah, you were talking about the likelihood. I don't know what the actual odds are of having a pedestal seed, but I know in the 60 or so runs that I have done, and a lot of the runs that I've watched, I think I've only seen a pedestal seed maybe twice. Mm-hmm. So it's not very likely to have that happen. But there are still 2 items that can be there.
That is absolutely true, but as we kind of, as you said earlier, just the avoidance of Skullwoods is going to be pretty high in this particular, for this particular seed, until they start to get to nowhere else to check. So we might not, just because we got the book, probably not going to be enough to tempt a player like Wulfy into going and looking at this juncture.
Exactly. Right now we have, Misery Mire and Pod and Eastern, and for Cowutopia, Thieves Town that can be beaten. So still plenty of options for these 2 runners that are still looking for those remaining 2 items.
Yeah. And of course, on top of that, a plethora of overworld checks. The only item left for them that's going to be a significant number of overworld checks opening up would be the boots themselves, and even that, it's not that many. The rest are all just going to be one-offs, like the dig spot, bumper cave with the cape. I suppose the cape also would open up Spike Cave.
But of course, there is the definite possibility of the ice rod being a troll item. For those who aren't aware, because the ice rod is only required for one thing in the entire game, which is beating Trinex. It can be in this seed anywhere except Trinex and Ganon's Tower, rather.
Yeah, so it's oftentimes in a race seed that's shaping up the way this one is, there's a chance that Ice Rod ends up being this final item that the runners have to locate in Turtle Rock itself, which is, of course, the last place they want to find it, because it's just very nerve-wracking to go into such a long dungeon like Turtle Rock and not being able to complete it.
And Wulfy having an extremely clean fight, hitting him 17 times with a hammer. 1 silver arrow, and good night to Helmosaur King, giving up just the compass. So Wulfy grabbing another crystal for himself, and it's time to continue looking for items. And I'm guessing he's probably going to mirror and head right into Eastern Palace with its 3 items right now.
Yep, Cowutopia is making the exact same play, following hot on his heels, going up to Palace of Darkness as well himself. Just a couple more overworld checks on his part. So although he looks to be a dungeon behind, he's got a slightly different dungeon in Ice Palace completed. And so he's just about to actually enter his 4th, which Wulfy is as well entering his 4th. Of course, Wulfy's 4th dungeon, Eastern Palace here, is actually a very short one. So that'll allow him to make up some time.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that time can be gone in an instant depending on where things are and what decisions are made. And Wulfy picking up the big key in the very first chest. So he's not going to have to worry about things. And now we're just counting items. There are 3 items, or 3 unique items, in Eastern Palace. So hopefully we're going to find some progression here.
Yeah, again, we struck out there in Palace of Darkness, so Cowutopia is about to kind of suffer that same fate that Wulfy did. There has to be, you have to figure that something's going to show up relatively soon for Wulfy here. Of course, we also know that if he were to go to, say, Ice Palace next, he would still be blanked on any kind of progression.
The nice thing, though, is they're not wasting time, because all this time they are collecting crystals, so they can at least rest assured in that. I know one thing that I've been kind of keeping in mind is, if you look at the items they got fairly early and then getting the flippers shortly thereafter, Swamp Palace has actually been full clearable for quite some time, and it is the green pendant, which leads to yet another item. So that's 7 potential items in that direction that could yield what they need.
Absolutely, you're right. And it is typically, if you have to pick a pendant dungeon to go in, there's a couple of factors that you want to pay attention to. One of them is clearly, if it's the green pendant, that's always a nice little bonus. The other one, of course, is item density. Swamp is about where it's at. The only downside to Swamp, of course, is that it is quite a long dungeon, especially if you start throwing in those side checks. The last 2 chests on the left side, basically, even with the boots, adds about 2 minutes to the clear, which is very uncomfortable when you feel like you're in a very close race.
Yeah, I'd say another, not too bad play if they get to this point without finding any further progression. It might be a good thing to do a quick check and just look at what Skullwoods has item-wise, and of course that gives you the opportunity to check the Master Sword pedestal and just get that one item off your mind.
And of course, again, the longer the seed goes, the more Cow is going to think about the fact that he left an item in the basement of Tower of Hera. Of course, it wasn't an item that is going to have been necessary, but he knows it's there.
Absolutely. Wulfy in the vanilla big key chest, finding the mirror shield, or the riot shield as some like to call it. So we haven't found any upgrades to armor, but we do know the locations of two of the two of the sword upgrades, as well as all of the shield upgrades. And now, ladies and gentlemen, don't blink, because otherwise you just might miss this fight. Wulfy and his silver arrows versus the Armos Knights, and, well, that was it. 6 quick shots, and a piece of heart, and another crystal for Wulfy.
So now the real question, you're right, we've speculated quite a bit. We're going to see here where Wulfy decides to go with this seed. I think he's probably going to want to do Ice Palace, just because it's fully completable, or he could do Misery Mire. We've both forgotten that, but looks like Ice Palace is going to be his call. Now, hopefully for his sake, he's going to take a look at some of these other item locations. Yeah, he looks like he might... we'll see. Nope, maybe not. Maybe yes. Yeah, he's going to take a look at the island, see the Tempered Sword. It'll be interesting if he chooses to go grab that before he does anything else. And yes, that is his decision. He immediately finds some shallow water to flute away, and he's going to get that before he goes and fights any more bosses. So good on him.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good thing. Yeah, it is interesting. We're at only 51 minutes. If Wulfy decides to take what he's got and clear both Ice and Misery Mire, he'd probably be looking at about an hour 05 with only one crystal dungeon to go. So this has been overall a pretty quick seed.
Yeah. Fortunately for him at this time, he doesn't have the correct medallion to even bother going in Turtle Rock, so he's not going to feel like, oh no, should I bother? Should I check? Or it's going to be clearly obvious he needs to go and find another item location. So that's always a nice feeling. When you're not sure if you're making the right call or not, is interesting.
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to end up at Turtle Rock, because then it's just a quick walk over to Ganon's Tower. Although there was one time when I saw the last crystal being the Tower of Hera, and that was also another really quick way to get to Ganon's Tower.
Yes, yesterday I had a big key game that lasted all of, 10 seconds. Leaving Tower of Hera, entering Ganon's Tower. So Wulfy's about to pick up his item from the hobo. It's just a piece of heart. But then he'll head up to the Waterfall of Wishing as well, since he's in the water, I would assume. Oh, he may not. May choose to.
It looks like he might be heading up to check Pyramid and maybe Catfish.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting choice that he has access to just from this direction. I like that he kind of had this opportunity present itself. It's really kind of, you're not sure when you're going to get there, especially without boots. So this could be very beneficial for him.
Yeah, depending on routing, and certainly if it's not an Agdam seed, there's really no time where you're really in the area. Finding just 20 rupees on the pyramid, and since he's sticking it out right now, I'm guessing he is going to go up and check up Catfish.
Yeah, he can also mirror over and deposit his mushroom. No one's done that as well. So there's 3 items. Like, this is 3 checks for him, which is nice. And if he wants to, he can also fill up some of his bottles with some blue goo. He certainly has the rupees for it.
Yeah, I believe Cowutopia only had the 1 bottle when he visited the witch's hut. So Wulfy's going to be able to fill up 2 bottles now, with the blue goo.
Interestingly enough, this doesn't work. I don't believe. Oh, well, maybe this does. I know that the flute doesn't work. This does. Okay. So he's able to see that it's a 5 rupee upgrade. And he just grabs 1 bottle there.
And back to the Dark World to head up to Catfish. You know, this is the time to do it. You're never going to be up this area again. So, although actually, Wulfy, I don't believe he ever checked Zora's domain, so he might be routing that in at the same time.
Yeah, he's going to be able to mirror from Catfish. This is what I was saying. Like, because he's able to go check Catfish, this is about as efficient a Catfish check as he could have possibly made. He had Mushroom. He had the necessity to go up to the pyramid. He's going to now mirror back, do Waterfall of Wishing, get Zora, and he can even do Zora's Ledge at this. So this is as good as you could possibly have asked for. And that's definitely what's going to happen.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we know that Zora's domain is not going to really yield anything. But although finding that half magic is definitely a very good bonus.
Yep. So Cowutopia has finished off the Helmstar King now while Wulfy's doing this overworld check. And he's now entering the Eastern Palace. So he's going to pull ahead again by one dungeon in just a few moments. But we'll have somewhat less overworld checks here in the Dark World. Although, of course, these ones that Wulfy is currently doing, he has already done.
Yeah, I'm guessing after completion of Misery Mire, they're probably going to check Desert Palace because there is a tendency for Desert Palace to have something good, and there are 2 items in there. And with it being such a short dungeon, it is a relatively fast check.
Yeah. Now, Wulfy was originally intending to go to Ice Palace, it seemed, when he last had an open decision. He saw the sword and made a change of plans, I think. So let's see if that's still in the cards for him, or if he's going to say, you know what, enough of that nonsense, let's go to Misery Mire. But nope, he's happy with his original decision, so Ice Palace is where it is.
Yeah, and it is an interesting decision because, you know, both Ice and Misery, you know, there can be a reasonable difference in time with Misery Mire if you can go mode it. However, Ice Palace, I think, has a much larger difference in time. So, once again, there's no such thing as a really bad decision, but I think I would have gone for Misery Mire first just for that reason.
Yeah, Misery Mire really, when you can go mode it, it's dependent on the item locations. There's very little control as the runner where you're going to find the big key. Ice Palace, of course, because you don't need the big key to actually finish the dungeon, means that you can go right to Cold Stare if you know the fastest, most ideal route, yeah.
So while we're kind of waiting for things to happen on both sides, ladies and gentlemen, these 2 runners so far have been putting on a great show. They're moving through this game very quickly. If you like what you see, check them out on Twitch. Give them a follow, Wulfy and Cowutopia. Once again, it's Wulfy83. Let me correct that. You know, they're doing a great job. This has been extremely close, and I think we have still a lot of excitement yet to go.
Neither of these runners, I think, can feel that they've made any poor choices at this point. Like, they've successfully maneuvered through several dungeons. They're collecting crystals. They're not really stopping and getting sidetracked very often. Both of them probably has a feeling that they're in a very good spot. Although, as is often the case when we end up with a seed like this that was very open, it comes down to when and who finds the final items the first. It's hard to say if anyone's winning. It's more so whether or not anyone is kind of in an advantageous position. And that usually happens just by having completed more checks than their opponent. But right now we're fairly even on that particular area.
Absolutely. You know, Wulfy plowing his way through Ice Palace, hitting his bomb jump on the first time. And that's another thing that's kind of interesting about all of these sprites is depending on how you line up your bomb jumps, it can actually make it a little more difficult because you need to memorize which pixel to use as your guide based on what you're actually playing as.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I've been told, and I'm not sure if this is absolutely true. Again, I play with the same sprite that I usually use, so I know that it works for this one. But a lot of the sprites use a standard size shadow, and so people typically say if you can measure a location based on the shadow, where to stand, that's very beneficial because it doesn't matter what sprite you play. If it has a shadow, you can use that. So that maybe is just a little hint that some people might try on their own. Now, Cowutopia is going to make the play towards the Meyer area. He has not yet looked here, so he's going to see Bombos in just a few seconds as the medallion, and that's probably going to, I think at this point, signal to him I might as well go in here after I make these Meyer shed check and the checkerboard cave check.
Well,
So that's very nice for him.
For him, this really was the best one because it is the last remaining crystal dungeon that he can do. He's already completed Ice Palace.
Yeah, that is true. He has finished. He's going to go up to the desert, and I think maybe he's going to just do a quick little look in here. It's only 2 item checks, or only 2 items that you're looking for here in desert. So why not take a peek? See if you find what you need.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and see if this dungeon is boot locked. And the small key is in there, so we know it's just going to be one more chest, most likely, that he's going to be able to open.
Yeah, if he finds the big key here, he can go a little bit further, but if I were him, I don't think I would. Yeah, so that's boots locked for now. So he has that knowledge. And he's going to go right into Misery Mire. He's going to say, you know what, I'll check checkerboard on the way out.
Yeah, Misery Mire can be, it can tend to be a long dungeon depending on where things are. But there are 2 unique items, and this is a crystal dungeon. Also, there is something just absolutely satisfying about beating Vitreous with the silver arrows.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Cold Stare goes down on Wulfy there in a few matter of seconds. That was as nice a Cold Stare fight as you could ever hope for. With Tempered Sword, the puffs never got away from one another. Really good. Cowutopia has sword beams, which feels really nice at this opening part of the Misery Mire dungeon. Takes some two cycles, but that's still pretty good. Now, what do you want to find in here?
Well, ideally, if you could find both the Ether and the Ice Rod, that puts you in go mode, and you can head directly up to Turtle Rock and go to beat the game.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking to myself, if you find the Ether Medallion, do you head up to, knowing that there's an awful lot of overworld checks that haven't been done, plus some pendant dungeons that are available, do you make the Turtle Rock pull, do you pull the trigger on Turtle Rock hoping that you're going to find the Ice Rod there? Or do you just say, you know what, I better look around a little bit more before I make that call?
I think if it were me and it was only the Ice Rod left, I would probably still go ahead and take on Turtle Rock. There's still the possibility of 5 unique items in there, plus you have Mimic Cave that is accessible by mirror, and even if you do have to double dip, it is a lot faster going through the second time around because of the rooms you don't have to go into. So I really, and the overworld is so spread out. There's so many places on the overworld they haven't had to check. They could easily burn a lot of time unnecessarily if that Ice Rod ends up being in Turtle Rock.
So Cal just finds the first of 2 items here, just a piece of heart. He's already got his hands on the big key. He's going to go check that other chest and the big key chest next, I believe. Very reasonable set of checks here. It's going to take the shortcut through the door.
And he uses a small key to get a small key, but there is still the big chest to check over here. He did not go down into the basement to get the vanilla big key chest, right?
No, he's hoping that he's going to find the second item here, I think. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Now, of course, Vitreous could have the second item. Oh, he's thinking about it. I don't know if he thought about it or not there. It's hard to say. He could have just headed up there through that north door to head towards Vitreous, but no, he's going to go down and take a look in the vanilla big key chest. I can't blame him for this. It's really frustrating to go fight Vitreous and feel that you need to come back in here just to look at that one chest.
Especially since it does take a while to get in. You have that second room with a bunch of enemies, and without certain items, it's a lot slower to go through that room. So only having to come into this dungeon once is definitely preferable.
Yeah, so some people in chat are pointing out we've been basically at this looking for the last two items since about the 35-minute mark. And that is often the case with randomizer steeds. You get a real nice opening, you find a lot of goodies, and it's just those last couple of things that you really absolutely need. What's been very different is that they've had so much available to them. The fact that it's the ice rod and the ether pendant, or ether medallion, both are the only thing they're needed for is access to Turtle Rock, really narrowing down what our runners are looking for. Oh, finding a key there.
So that means Vitreous is going to have our final item for this dungeon.
I suppose if you were a key sanity player and you knew how many keys were in each dungeon and were keeping track of that, you could have avoided making that check there. But that's not something that I kind of have as my general knowledge in the back of my head, like exactly how many keys are in each dungeon. Wulfy going ahead and actually pulling ahead here by making that call is going to be a benefit for him.
Yeah, these players are really close to high-fiving. Really, they're only like a room and a half away from each other. And both of these players, upon completing Misery Mire, are going to have 5 crystals. So even with some route divergence and checking different things, realistically, these players are only, about a minute apart from each other at this point.
Not even, actually. I think you're right. I think it's significantly less than a minute. What will be very interesting, of course, is if they don't find ether here, and really it's if they don't find ether, if they find the ice rod, you're right, if they find ether, they're probably going to head up to Turtle Rock. But if they don't find ether, wow, Wulfy just ripping through these eyeballs. If they don't find ether, they're very likely to have to go through a bunch of diverging overworld path locations, and it really becomes like an Easter egg.
And there it is!
There it is!
There it is!
Ether.
So now the decision comes to pass. Do we do the overworld, or does he go directly to Turtle Rock? Cowutopia taking down Vitreous as well. So these runners only about 20 to 30 seconds apart.
Yeah, and, literally seconds behind one another.
Yeah, this has been absolutely amazing. Wulfy going back into...
Wulfy's going to go do what Cowutopia has already done, which is check, just hey, why don't I look? I'm right here. And I can't blame him for doing that since he's literally a few steps away. Cow, of course, doesn't have to do that, although he still needs to check the checkerboard cave. So probably it's going to even out in just a few seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe checkerboard cave had a full heart, so... I know Wulfy collected it. We'll see if Cow decides to do it. I'm guessing probably not at this point, but... Oh,
Cow.
Oh, no.
You know what? We know it doesn't hurt him, but he's going to feel like it might.
Oh, he's going back.
He's going to go and check it. Oh, well, you can't blame him for it.
Yeah. And once again, both of these runners... All they have left now is the ice rod. It can literally be anywhere on this map. There is no such thing as a bad decision. Some are more efficient than others, but there's no bad decisions because it really truly can be anywhere at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be a real interesting turn of events when we do find it where it happens to be. If it's in Turtle Rock, that is kind of what you almost hope is going to be the case for Wulfy at this point, because he feels like he's a little bit ahead. Just it's a little bit of an advantage for him. But if it's not, and it could be anywhere on this map, it's really going to come down to who does what first. Becomes basically a race for runners. Now, what's interesting here is if you're Cowutopia at this point, and if you feel like you're behind, perhaps you decide not to make that Turtle Rock call on the hopes that it's the wrong call and you're going to check elsewhere. So we'll see what he chooses to do in just a few seconds. He can save a quit up to Mountain. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and look elsewhere, I think.
So this is where this race could be made or broken.
Yep, this is it.
With one choosing to make the Turtle Rock play and the other choosing not to. And I'm wondering are we going to get a check at Swamp Palace?
I think that's where Cow is going. It's the most logical next dungeon to check. It's the Green Pendant dungeon. At this point, he's right to have made this call just because Wulfy was slightly ahead of him. He has no way of knowing this, but it was very unlikely that Wulfy's going to have a problem with Turtle Rock. And so whatever it is that... And there it is.
Go mode for Wulfy. Wow.
Yeah, so that is a very unfortunate for Cowutopia. He has really kind of made a decision that I feel is understandable in his position. He's feeling behind, but it really is going to have been the nail in the coffin, so to speak, for his ability to complete this seed in a timely manner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's going to be spending most likely a pretty big amount of time in Swamp Palace. He's not going to find anything of use. I mean, the only thing he could find that would speed things up a little bit would be the boots, but I think at this point, it wouldn't help enough.
That is, well, you never know if boots are required. If there's a key, if the big key against tower is on the torch, and he does find boots here, you're right. That would make a big difference for him. But we're talking about a very unlikely turn of events here at this point. However, it's rando, so never say never until we know for sure.
Yeah, and Wulfy very happy. He's just heading through Turtle Rock. All he has to find is that big key.
Yep.
So
he's got to feel real good about the situation.
And I believe with the logic, I think the big key has to be... Oh, maybe not. I thought he was going into the vanilla big key chest, but I guess he decided it wasn't necessary.
Oh, he already found the big key, I think.
Okay, so in that case, he was just getting that small key so he can avoid Laser Bridge then, huh?
He has the key.
And yeah, with Wulfy finding that second small key in the big chest now, I believe he knows for sure that he's in very, very good shape for the rest of this.
Yeah, you got to feel pretty good about your play at this point. You've made it through what is, the hard part of the seed. You've collected all of the items that you need to get through it. It's really just coasting mode now, just cruise control kind of for the completion. Wow, Cowutopia is going to make the full check on Swamp. He's going all the way left side. I don't blame him. Again, when you make a call like this to decide to search for an item, you can't leave any chests unchecked.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because we know exactly where that ice rod is, and unfortunately, he's nowhere near it at this point.
Yep. So if you're viewing, if you're watching, in chat here, like many people have already commented, if this situation ever does come up for you, where you're looking for that ice rod, it's almost always the right call to go into Turtle Rock. You know, you just kind of, we talk it up about like whether or not that's what they're going to do. Unless, butter sword there for Wulfy on Laser Bridge. Unless, of course, you feel like you're absolutely behind and you need to find a way to, a way to gamble your way back into this race. In which case you might try something else, and that looks like it is what Cow did.
Yeah, and I'm guessing Wulfy was probably checking out Laser Bridge to look for the boots or possibly a mail upgrade, because even though we have 13 hearts, this can still be a very difficult fight against Trinax. Only a couple hugs can make your day a really bad one, so certainly trying to find some kind of armor upgrade is a good thing.
In the left side of Swamp, while you were just speaking, I'm not sure if you noticed, but our friend Cowutopia did find the boots. So, the dream for Cow is alive.
Yep, it all depends on where that big key is.
If the randomizer gods have chosen to smile on him today or not, it will be very interesting to see what happens. But I'm going to guess that, we are now at a 1 in 22 chance for that to be the case.
And Wulfy getting the Bloomerang, completing his collection of items a little bit further.
Yep, and so that starts something up for us here in chat. Would you like to describe what our friends here should be doing at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's a little game we like to play, and it's called Where's the Ganon's Tower Big Key? There are 22 locations where it can possibly be, and where is it going to be? Could it be on that torch, giving Cowutopia the possible chance to catch up? Could it be in the tile room? We don't know, but Wulfy's going to find out pretty quickly. So put your guesses into chat. And of course, if you've donated 250 bits to any of the Speed Gaming channels or are a subscriber to the channels, you're eligible to get on our leaderboard if you guess the correct number starting now.
And ending now, basically. Unfortunately,
Okay.
the Turtle Rock to Ganon's Tower run is not particularly long, but lots of numbers in channel here, so I think most of our friends here got their check off. So let's find out. Number 1, not the chest. Number 2, also not. Wulfy's going to see if the worst possible scenario happens for him. In just a few moments, he heads down the stairs, and it is just a big 20. So
this is now Wulfy's race to lose.
Exactly. So that's number 3, by the way. So we've taken number 3 check.
Meanwhile, Cowutopia taking out a little bit of aggression on Argus and getting that green pendant, so we'll see where he chooses to go next. And Wulfy finding a blue mail in item location number 6. So we've now done, I believe, 1 through 7. Am I counting correctly?
Yep. The Fire Snake room where he's heading next is number 8. Cow is going to go ahead and take a look at what's on the Bombos medallion tablet. Just a big 20 there. Number 8 for Wulfy's just a 5 bomb upgrade. Still nothing for him. And Cow is just going to search the overworld completely. Not willing to pull that trigger.
And Wulfy pulling off the boomerang and hook shot strat to get through one of those rooms very quickly.
That was really nice. Number 9, Big Key. Big Key, number 9, ladies and gentlemen. If you guessed number 9, you are the winner. And that means that your name will be forever immortalized on the leaderboards, at least until the end of this tournament. So the closest supporter we had was Actaboker, who guessed number 8 for us. Congratulations for your successful guess. Again, if you choose to participate in this game and you're not yet a subscriber or have not yet donated 250 bits, you have plenty of time to do so in the future. There are hundreds of races left to go in this tournament, so lots of opportunity to get your name on that leaderboard.
Yeah, Cowutopia now checking out Desert Palace. He's going to actually be able to progress a little bit further because he has those boots. So unfortunately, it's going to put him even further behind. Meanwhile, Wulfy heading across the bridge of balls, or I don't know what it's called, but either way, about to head into most people's least favorite area, that being the gauntlet.
Yeah, the bug net there in Desert Palace for Cowutopia, for all the fairies that he might want to catch later. And the Big Key, he's going to mirror back. I don't know if he's actually going to go ahead and clear it. I think at this point he's all or nothing on this. He's going to wait and see. He either finds the item he's looking for, or he sees if his opponent finishes the race. And as we all kind of know is going to happen at this point, Wulfy is, barring some significant difficulties on Ganon fight, probably going to be able to do that long before Cowutopia completes the rest of his checks. Now, the one thing Cow's going to do for us probably is give us a nice blind pull of the pedestal. So, all of you trolls in chat who want to see that happen, it's going to happen, I would imagine. Wulfy gets a nice one cycle on the first set of whiz robes. Let's see if he can do it on the second set. It's a little bit more tricky. Oh!
Now, it will be interesting to see. I mean, Cowutopia could be thinking Pedestal Seed, but there's still a lot of overworld locations to check before that would be the only option.
Yeah, but I know Cow, and I think that he's thinking, you know what, at this point he's thinking to himself, I should have gone to Turtle Rock. I can't believe I didn't go. And so I would be surprised if he doesn't just do it for the viewers in a few moments. What's really going to be heartbreaking for him when if he chooses to later watch the VOD of this stream, is when he sees just how close they were within 20 seconds or so of one another before he made the call not to go to Turtle Rock. I think that's going to be something that really is going to weigh heavily upon his thought processes in the future of this time in the tournament. But of course, being a 3-1 runner, a loss here still has the opportunity to move on to the bracket stage, so won't be too final for him at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. The winner of this race will be 4-1, which will put him just one win away from being in the brackets. And the bracket stages include everybody that has a 7-0, 6-1, and a 5-2 record. So both of these runners are safe no matter what happens tonight. And Wulfy, unfortunately, not having the Pegasus boots. That room is definitely less fun without them, but doing a really good job of avoiding getting hit and heading right into Agnum 2.
All right, let's see if how this works out. He's got a nice setup here for a double. Oh, single there. I decided to throw some blue balls out. And another double. Ooh, that double must not have counted, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they hit at the same time, but this should be the final hit, I think. And yep, with that, Wulfy takes down Agnum 2. With how he's been playing, it's hard to imagine him not getting well under the hour-and-a-half mark. So this has been a really fast seed tonight. Meanwhile, Cowutopia continuing his journey into Skull Woods, and we are going to see a pedestal check. So we'll see what ended up being there.
Oh, don't give us a look. Blind pull it for us. Oh, 300 rupees. Cow doesn't want to give us the benefit of the cutscene. Wulfy with the butter sword, with silvers, has a very, very quick Ganon fight ahead of him.
Absolutely. Ganon giving us a couple little tips about insects this time. I hadn't seen that one.
And with that, he's transitioned into phase 3. As soon as these fire bats get used up.
Yeah, it's still a little bit of a dangerous fight. Ganon does hit hard, and although he does have potion and he does now have the blue mail, so. And halfway through stage number 3.
So I'm curious. I'm feeling like what Cow is doing. I think Cow is definitely watching the race chat to see if Wulfy has finished the race or not, and he's progressing through every dungeon. While this is happening, he's thinking to himself, "This is my hope. If I don't see that dot done, I'm on the right track, so I better keep going." Strategically, it's a very sound move. It just, unfortunately for him, didn't pay off today. And Wulfy lays the last arrow into Ganon.
Yeah, finishing off with a double, and wow, what a fast run that was! Just an absolutely clean Ganon fight. I don't think he even took a single heart of damage. And with that, heading into the room, Wulfy 83 winning and going 4-1 with an official Speed Racing TV time of 1 hour, 26 minutes, and 43 seconds.
Yeah, a sub 130 on this particular seat. It's really nice. Both of our runners have probably seen faster times in their pasts. I'm not sure exactly. I do know that Cow definitely has. But this particular seed did give them as much of a troll as it could have. That last minute, that last check Turtle Rock ice rod. Well, it does seem to be there more often than not. You never know if that's going to be the case. So GG to Wulfy there. Everybody throwing up the GGs in chat. Excellent. We'll get a chance to have a chat with him in a few moments if we can give him a question, ask if he's ready to talk with us. And we'll get his thoughts and feelings on this particular seed in just a few minutes. Welcome to the channel, Wulfy. GG and congratulations for this particular matchup.
Hey, thanks. That was a really friendly seed.
Yeah, it sort of was. It gave you a really great start. Lots of potential items there. Kind of stalled out in the middle, as they often do when that's the case. But you made some pretty steady progress the whole way through. I guess our first question for you is that always your standard goal? Like, you have access to get into Turtle Rock there when you need that ice rod? Is that always end up going, or is there a thought process there that helps you decide whether or not to do that?
If I had some really easy, say, overworld concentration of items to check, I might do that before TR, but if it's just a bunch of pendant dungeons, I'm just going to Turtle Rock.
Well, that was definitely the right choice this time around. Worth noting, you guys chose to route things very similarly, and even at the times where you kind of went different directions, you ended up covering the same things. As you were finishing Vitreous over in Misery Mire and getting that Ether Medallion, you guys were only about 15 seconds apart. The thing that decided this race was you decided to go directly to Turtle Rock, and unfortunately Cowutopia is still looking around, and he's already completed the pendant dungeons and done a check of the pedestal.
Yeah, I was so happy to see that ice rod in Turtle Rock.
Yeah, it really was a gutsy call there. You had another moment that worked out really well for you in Misery Mire. You didn't full clear that. Did you get a second item there, or did you just head right into the Vitreous fight?
I got 2 items. I took the gamble that the last item wouldn't be at the slow torch chest.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, because you had ether, of course. Yeah, and that, I think that's where you actually pulled ahead. I was slightly ahead of you. That he was the Misery Mire at that point, and then he went down to the slow chest there, and you, of course, started going backwards, or started going to the back rooms, a little bit ahead of him, and that started off your path to victory at this point. So you've now achieved a 4-1 record. That must feel really great.
Oh yeah, prospects for making brackets are looking really good now.
Yeah, of course, it only gets more and more difficult with each week. How confident are you that you're going to get at least one of the required wins in the remaining 2 weeks?
I'm quite confident I can get at least one more win.
Yeah, is there anyone that you're kind of hoping you don't have to get matched up against in order to make that check?
Not really. I've had kind of a lot of unbalanced matchups this tournament, so actually, a tougher opponent might be a nice change.
Now, this seed started out with, absolute plentifulness, 2 sword upgrades, hookshot, hammer, and mirror right away. Of course, one of the new features of V29 is the addition of the uncle as our weapons master. How did you feel when you saw that he had bombs and then immediately opened the next chest in order to find that sword?
I'm actually pretty happy anytime I see bombs escape because I've practiced it, I'm good at it. So there's a good chance I get an advantage from it. And then I see the sword, and, well, it's just going to be an easy escape then.
Yeah, it turned out really nice for you there. Well, for any runner, I think, is going to be really happy to see bombs into sword immediately following. The Paradox Cave, Death Mountain turned out to be a pure wealth of items as well. Was that kind of surprising? You get into Paradox Cave, and not only do you find all of the goodies there, but you get your second lift upgrade, giving you Death Mountain in the Dark World as well. At that point,
yeah, that was pretty nice. I forget all the items that were in Death Mountain, but I know there was the mitt, and I was thinking, unless I find a mitt here, I'm done, and I found it, which often happens.
Yeah, you had the mitt there. Cane of Samaria was right next to it, and the Babos medallion, I believe, at that point, which turned out to be Misery Mire.
As I recall, the Super Bunny Cave had the silver arrows as well, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so overall, it was a pretty gentle seed for a seed that opened up as much as it did. It kind of closed back up again really quickly. Find that typical, or have you had any experience with a lot of a very early seed where that item is hard to find?
Usually, the way seeds have been going for me on this version of the rando is that I get every item but one right away, and then I have to pick which pendant dungeon to look in for the last item, which thankfully didn't come into play this time.
Yeah, it's actually, I agree with you heavily. A lot of the seeds that we've seen and a lot of the races that we've watched, those pendant dungeons have held progression. In this one, there was absolutely nothing. In fact, several dungeons held nothing. Palace of Darkness was pretty much devoid of anything worthwhile. Ice Palace didn't have anything of value. Thieves Town was really dead. There were a lot of blanks.
Worth noting right now on Cowutopia's side, we just found the second male upgrade. It was actually Han Sahasrahla.
Yeah, and he is now making his call up to Turtle Rock.
That's gotta feel bad. It never feels nice to full clear a swamp and get nothing.
Well, he got the boots.
He did find the boots, yeah.
So that's where those were.
We were actually, he went right, that was where he immediately following your decision to go to Turtle Rock, he just went to Swamp Palace. And so there was that moment as you're in Ganon's Tower, when you hit the first location there on the right side, where bated breath, everyone was waiting to see if it was going to be the Ganon's Tower Big Key, because that would have been devastating, I think, for you.
Yeah, I was just I was slightly afraid of the torch key. Like, it's not really high odds, but
1 in 22 is.
That is what made me check the laser bridge in TR, was just the possibility of boots there.
Yeah, we were saying, well, he's looking for boots just in case, because that's a significant worry at that point. Everything else, all things considered, that's the only thing left for you to be concerned about. And it would have been really tragic, because you would probably want to, I would assume you'd want to clear Ganon's Tower at that point, just to see if the boots were in GT.
My worst nightmare would be GT Big Key on the torch, and then boots in one of the chests in Turtle Rock that I skipped, or like in Mimic Cave.
Oh yeah, Mimic Cave would have been rough too, yeah. So that ended up being the kind of last hope for Cow in this particular run, just because of some of the choices that he made. But it certainly made for a very exciting and adventurous race to watch. All the way along, you guys kind of passed the lead, or passed the advantage of the lead back and forth, right up until that last dungeon. So thanks for putting on a great show for us. We appreciate it greatly. Is there any kind of comments or things that you'd like to say to the viewers or people who, at this point, about the tournament or about how things are going? Or just take this opportunity to say whatever you feel like.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you next time.
All right, thank you once again, and GG on the race. Congratulations on the 4-1, and we look forward to seeing you in your next race. Feel free to hang out if you'd like to talk to Cow afterwards, because it looks like he's going to be wrapping up shortly.
Sure.
All right, so Cowutopia now making the play into Turtle Rock. Of course, we know that is the play, and I won't be surprised at all if we see a little bit of angry slashes or select bomb usage when he finds that ice rod.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. I know, as a person who has viewed Cowutopia's stream quite a few times, I spend a lot of time hanging out there because he's a friend of mine. But he has a thing, and he and I get in many an argument about whether or not he should be setting foot in pendant dungeons when he doesn't have to. So you can rest assured, chat, that I will be making some comments regarding his choices here, but of course at that point it does make some reasonable sense for why he thought he might want to go elsewhere, especially again if he felt like he was behind. There he goes, finding his big key in the first chest,
and now he's heading up to the upper right room, and he's going to find, I believe, a small key and his ice rod.
Yeah, now Cow's going to be able to avoid Laser Bridge because he is not going to be looking for anything like Wulfy was. So he'll have a very slightly faster clear path through this particular dungeon. It isn't really a huge time save considering he has the mirror shield, so Laser Bridge isn't really that challenging. But it is a noticeable difference. Of course, also having the boots letting him skip through those rollers with the use of the cape at the same time is really nice.
And Cowutopia finding his ice rod, and now he's in go mode, heading up to take on Trinex and then Ganon's Tower. I also want to mention, kudos to him for not giving up and making that decision, despite the fact that Wulfy already finished, deciding that he was going to finish this seed no matter how long it took.
Yeah, he's not the kind of person who wants to, and not at this stage who have made it 3-1 record are the kind of people who would be that salty unless they were having a significant amount of trouble throughout the matchup where they were very, very far behind. Do I think that might happen, or perhaps they have a pressing engagement? But since they get to select their times or work out an appropriate time with their matchup partner, that's less likely to be the case. So Cow's gonna probably just steal the key from this pokey again. He's not gonna. I would be surprised if he checks the lava bridge chest here. He doesn't really need to see what's on there. He already has the big key. And there it is.
Yeah, the only items that he's not going to end up getting. Well, actually, he'll probably end up getting the red mail, but he won't end up getting the butter sword. But at this level of play, it doesn't make that much of a difference if you have a really smooth Ganon fight.
Yeah, and it must be said to everyone watching, like Cow's progression through the seed has been really well executed. It's really just going to boil down to that one choice. His boss fights were really on point. That cold stare fight he had was really quick, considering his loadout at the time. A lot of his other fights were really well done. He didn't really have any major execution errors at all. It was really just that one decision that cost him. And like a few seconds here and a few seconds there is one thing, but then to choose to go to the wrong dungeon again, at no point do you have any way of knowing that that's the wrong choice until you actually make the call. So,
and that's why Randomizer is so exciting. There's really no such thing as a wrong choice. I mean, we know in hindsight that Wulfy made the absolute correct decision by going under Turtle Rock, but in terms of numbers of locations, mathematically, it was a better choice not to go there. So, there's really just no way to say it other than it was a lucky choice.
yeah, there's a little bit of gamesmanship there. Like, what is my opponent going to do? Do you want to do the same thing as your opponent, or do you want to try something different? There's a little bit of trusting the seed to guide you in the way it needs to go. There's a lot of potential ways that you can decide, that you can perform the calculus to do the math to figure out where you want to go. And it's going to be different for every runner. And so it's just kind of the way the game works out. And is there an ideal way to like an ideal decision tree to be made? Probably so. But in a game like this, where there's so many possible variables, you're going to have situations where you're not quite able to predict exactly what you think should be right.
And calculating off the first two heads, and I'm expecting a pretty quick final portion of Trinex. And with that, it's all down to Ganon's Tower at this point. Hopefully he makes the same decisions and heads to the left side as early as possible.
Yep, and there goes Trinex.
So since we still have Wulfy in chat, I'm kind of curious. There's a little bit of a discussion going on about personal bests in chat. Is this a personal best for you? And if not, what is your personal best time on a seed?
So that's my personal best for this particular version of the randomizer, V29. There was a previous version where I got a sub 110 time.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that version was pretty broken. It made really front-loaded seeds.
Yeah, I know that last week Cow had a 114. It wasn't a restreamed race, but his VOD is available on his channel if anyone wants to see it.
Yeah, it was a 107.22 according to SRA.
Wow, 107.
I
That's
honestly would not have even thought that was possible.
I do know that in the tournament so far there was a 112. Someone was in the 112s on a streamed race. So somewhere, I can't remember whose it was. We hit a 112 earlier. I think it was in week 2 of the races. So Cowutopia now opening up chests 4, 5, 6, and 7. We know that the big key is going to be on chest 9. Oh, he's having a... Got trolled a little bit there by the hookshot blocks. And then the spike block just giving him... At this point, you know, when you know your opponent's finished, you kind of... Your play changes a little bit. You get a little flustered. He's made a couple of mistakes with his decision, so it's reasonable for him to be kind of making silly mistakes like that, just trying to get it over with.
Oh, I'm sure he's definitely feeling frustrated, especially since, you know, he probably saw that dot done in the chat, and, you know, then finding the ice rod in Turtle Rock. You know, I would be very surprised if he didn't suspect that his opponent found the ice rod in Turtle Rock and is kicking himself for not making that same decision.
Mm-hmm.
And there we go, in the triple firebar room, or quadruple, whatever. Finds the big key. Time to head up and do the gauntlet. And, you know, it's worth noting, you know, even with this delay of him having to search for that ice rod, he's still going to be well under the 2-hour mark, which is quite a benchmark for many a new player. That first time they get a sub 2 hour is really a big deal. So
Yeah, I remember mine. I'm sure everyone can kind of remember when they finally crossed that threshold. Especially in a seed like this where there was that one last trolley item.
Yeah, absolutely, where it really did come down to that one decision. I know out of 60 to 65 seeds that I've played, I've only had 3 that were sub 2 hours. So it's, you know, depending on where the items are, it's not an easy goal to achieve.
Yep, and runners at this level are, you know, likely to see that sub 2 hour a lot more than not. So, you know, some people in chat talking about, you know, the fact that, hey, random's random, it's luck of the seed. And while that is definitely true, the skill level of the top players that are able to take a difficult seed and convert it into a nice sub 2 hour, you know, hour and a half, hour and 40-minute seed is apparent. And it's why you're in a tournament like this where we're taking 512 players and going to be boiling it down to like one winner. That winner is going to have made it there, not on luck, on skill, with a little bit of luck thrown in.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, another testament to the seed is, you know, we can still look on Wulfy's screen and see his collection rate was only 143 chests out of the 216. A fairly low number of opened items.
Yeah, as well, sometimes that number can be deceiving because there's, of course, items that are seen but not picked up. Like, for example, we see that there's a big 20 rupee on that, on the torch here in Ganon's Tower, but because the runners don't pick it up, the game doesn't count that as an item. So, like,
Cowutopia is going to need to be a little bit careful, down to just a heart and a half.
Yeah, that's true. It takes out Land Molus too. I believe he's going to have access to... He might have blue potions. Yeah, he's got the blue potions, so... Gets the one cycle on the first of Wiz Robes, uses his blue potion there just to be careful, I suppose. There's no point in risking anything at this point. Makes it through that first guard bridge. Wulfy, of course, got trolled by the one guard who felt like giving him a little poke. And Cow gets another 1 cycle on the second set of whiz rubs as well.
Yeah, that's definitely another one of those things. You've seen it many times, but the first time that you clear that room in 1 cycle, it feels really good.
Yeah, that is a lot harder than it looks, folks. If you are not a person who's tried that, you might think, oh yeah, it seems simple. Just use Canis and Mario and hit the 1 wizard with your sword. But you try it. Once you've get it down, it's a lot. It's not so bad, but it took a little while for a lot of runners to be able to manage that consistently.
And Cowutopia now heading into Troll Dorm number 2. However, with the red sword, this should be a pretty fast fight. And he goes down. And choosing not to entertain us by opening up the final chest.
Yep, that's twice that happened. And you can see here how the boots significantly impacts that last room. Wulfy, of course, having to take the long, slow path up through all those conveyor belts and ice, with 100 Helmsars in tow, it seemed. Boots, fortunately, makes that very easy. Cow gets a nice double on the first Agonim sequence. Only a single on the second one. And another double.
Very nice. Just 1 hit away from being ready to take on Ganon.
Yep, so same number of cycles as Wulfy there. Now, Cowutopia does not have Butter Sword because he did not have to go down Laser Bridge in Turtle Rock, but it's really not going to be too much of a difference in how he handles the Ganon fight. It's just 12 swings per phase instead of 6. It's going to get some spins here, which could potentially speed up that transition. And we're in phase 2.
Yeah, this fight should be no problem for him. He has a red sword, he has the red mail, so maximum protection. He's got this.
Gets a good spot here. Unfortunately, didn't get a 1 cycle on the fire sequence, but doing an excellent job dodging some fire bats.
And getting his sword swing in just before he would conjure the fire rings, so really good effort there.
That was a long run. Like, he had to go all the way kitty corner across the room to make sure that didn't happen. Still managed to do it. So, very nice. Now you can see here he's pulled out the lantern. He's going to hope to get that torch glitch. You really want that to happen when you're playing. It's just really nice, and there it is. He's also positioned himself for a nice double here, but almost the triple even. There's his third one. He's going to relight the torch. And gets his last hit off on Ganon, landing that final arrow.
Man,
So
proudly holding up the red sword. Ganon falls to Cowutopia.
Yeah, and what amounts to essentially a full clear of this dungeon, of course, didn't do AGA 1, but basically completed the game in its entirety in an official Speed Racing TV time of 1 hour, 53 minutes, and 42 seconds. So nothing to sneeze at there. And
welcome, Cowutopia. GG.
He's going to give us a fast forward here as well through the end sequence. Welcome, Cow, and GG. I'm not sure if he can hear us yet or if his mic is muted.
I'm not muted.
Oh, your volume is quite low though.
Yeah, my mic was hanging.
There we
up
go.
on It was. I put it up.
Oh
my
yes.
head. GG.
Hey, good game.
Yeah.
Nothing to sneeze at there.
And
And
welcome
Yeah,
to
gonna give us a
Cowutopia GG.
he's going to give
Well,
us the fast forward here as well through the.
I
end
mean, I miss Mark Desert as a crystal, which is why I went to
welcome
Desert so many
Cow
times.
and GG.
But other than that, I think I played fine. I had a feeling the boots were in swamp, but I thought I needed the boots for desert, but I
I'm
didn't.
not sure if he can hear.
But
us
I
yet
just
or
wasn't
if
willing
his
to take the
mic is
gamble. I
muted.
knew, every check I made that I didn't find the ice rod, I knew.
Your volume is
I
quite
was
low though.
Ooh, sorry. I knew I was screwed.
There we
Because
go.
I knew you would have gone into Turtle Rock. I know how you play, so I knew you'd be in there, and I'm like,
Hey,
well,
good game.
I probably lost by like half an hour. So, whatever. That's Rando.
Yeah,
Cow, it was a
yeah.
absolutely amazing seed to
Well,
watch. You guys did some route diversion, but then you
I
kind
mean, I
of
miss
converged
Mark
back
Desert as a
together,
crystal, which is
and
why I
you
went to
guys
Desert so many
beat
times. But other than
Vitreous
that,
about
I played
15 seconds
I had a
apart
feeling
from
the
each
boots were in
other.
swamp, but
The
and then
only it was the decision of not going to Turtle Rock.
Turtle Rock.
That was the
Yeah.
difference.
Well, I came out there and I'm like, well, I can go to Turtle Rock or I can not, and I didn't, and I was like, well, oh well. I pulled it in Turtle Rock. Every next check, I'm like, it's in Turtle Rock. It's in Turtle Rock. It's in Turtle Rock. I'm lost. Oh well. It was a good game though. Yeah, I think I played all right.
Well, it
So,
started
I'm
out
happy about
really
that.
well. I mean, halfway through Kakariko Village, you guys had 2 swords, a hook shot, the hammer, and the mirror, and then it kind of dried up until you went up to Death Mountain and got another treasure trove.
Yeah, it was a super friendly seed, especially seeing the tempered early. I went straight for it. And I actually thought, I was going to go into swamp right away, but then the ice was open. I'm like, yeah, I'll just bang out ice. Why not? And, yeah, I mean, it just came down to me not willing to go to Turtle Rock. My 2 races ago, I made the same gamble. I made the gamble to go into Turtle Rock, and it wasn't in Turtle Rock. It was in Pendant Ice. So that's rando, But if you want to push your time, you really got to make those plays. Follow the crystal path. So.
Yeah, and the other thing that we kind of wanted to mention over the course of this seed was we were really hoping at the end there, just kind of for the excitement of the race, that your decision would have been reversed by finding the boots there in swamp, and chat was like, oh, if Big Key's on torch.
I was hoping so hard. I walked in the door and I'm like, well, if Big Key's on torch, I might still be in this. But because I don't look at the time, I didn't see that he finished like 30 minutes ago. I was like, well, my last chance is if Big Key's on torch. Oh well.
Yeah, it was not meant to be. However, you're still, like a 3-2 record. There's still a lot of tournament left for you as well. How are you feeling about the randomizer tournament this far? Are you having a good time?
I'm having a blast, man.
Yeah. Any hopes for your next matchup? Anything that you're looking to see in the seed, perhaps like some different kind of troll, different kind of items to find, or?
No, I mean, I couldn't hope for a better start. I'm just hoping for another good race. My personal goal is to make it to brackets. This being my first tournament, I only started playing like a couple months ago. So I'm pretty happy with my progress, and I hope I can make it to brackets. So I'm still alive, so I'm not too bummed. Wulfy's a good racer, man. So, I'm happy I hung with him for a little while.
Yeah, you absolutely did. It was like we say, up until that divergence there at the end, you were, within 20 seconds up. You are either ahead or behind 20 seconds at any given time. I know that you finished your 5th crystal before he finished his, and you were going back and forth there. That the decision to go into Ice Palace early on kind of was very interesting. It naturally routed for what you were doing because you decided to pick up that early
The tempered, yeah.
third sword, yeah. Wulfy at that point hadn't made the visual check to see that it was located there. So was that, were you planning to make that decision? Because I noticed that you went to go pick up a blue potion right before.
No, I had the flute, so a blue potion's always good to have. But I wasn't gonna go into ice, but I was there, and I was like, I got tempered and half magic. This is gonna be easy, so I'll just do it, and then I'll finish the route, up to the left. So, but that's when I started getting sad because like there was nothing in Overworld from south of Grove all the way through Thieves Town. And after I made all of that routing and I did the frog route and everything, I'm like, man, I should just push all these crystals. And that's when I started to feel a little behind. So, but again, like I didn't think I was that far behind. It was just when I started looking for the ice rod, then I was like, well, I'm boned.
Yeah, it did that. It's so as you say, it is random. One choice that you make can really make or break a seed. But there's no real way to deal with it. You're right. Sometimes you just got to chase the crystals. Sometimes you do have to go into the pendants. Of course, my thoughts on pendant dungeons.
Yep.
I'm sure we'll have some words about it later. But
well, I did like my biggest mistake was marking desert. I marked desert as crystal, and I didn't fix that. I had four. I had an extra crystal on my tracker. I had desert as a crystal, so I thought I needed the boots, and then I went in the swamp. I'm like, I bet the boots are in swamp, and then I got the boots, and I was like, oh, I can finish desert. But then that's when I messed up again, because then I went to check Skull Woods, and I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta finish the desert crystal, and then the pendant dropped, and I'm like, oh man, I screwed this whole game up.
Oh wow, unfortunate. Just a bummer. So see, small tracker errors can make a difference, folks.
Tracker errors.
You got to be careful about that as well.
Are important.
Alrighty. Well, in any event, we do have to be heading out soon. So GG on the race, Cowutopia. GG once again, Wulfy. Is there any final words, Cow, that you'd like to share with the viewers about how the tournament's going? Anything like that?
Yeah, I think everybody here has done such a great job. I want everyone to be, follow everybody who's involved, thank everybody who's involved. They're doing just a massive job organizing all of these people and all the volunteers. I just wanted to thank you guys. It's been a freaking blast, and I love it. And remember to track correctly. Your public service announcement. Track correctly. Because honestly, if I wasn't looking, if I didn't think it was a 2-item hunt, if it was a 1-item hunt, I probably would have gone into Turtle Rock.
Yeah,
it kind of changed my whole mindset.
Indeed. Okay, so just for our fans and viewers here, just so you're aware, we've got a race starting up in a few moments on Speed Gaming 1. McLagging versus Actaboker, who was our winner in the Big Key Guessing game. Their race is beginning momentarily. Additionally, 15 minutes after that, Arboretic and Buzz Thunder on Speed Gaming 2 are going to put on a show for us. Then the next race will be at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. On Speed Gaming 1. So lots of rando to watch. Thanks for everyone for participating. Even if you're just viewer, if you're just in the audience right now, that really makes a difference. My name's Crozone80. I'd like to thank everybody on behalf of the people who are putting the show on for you. Thanks a lot for watching. Sko Davis was my co-commentator. I'm sure he would appreciate a follow as well if you feel so inclined to do so. And of course, today we were supported by Taka, who was our tracker. So again, make sure that you give those two guys your love. And thanks a lot for watching us. Sko Davis, is there anything that you'd like to do before we wrap this up?
Absolutely. If we already know that there's other races about to start, but of course, if you need a fix of rando at any time, make sure you follow Speed Gaming's 1 through 6 and ALTTP Randomizer channels 1 through 4 on Twitch. Also, if you have a little bit of experience with Zelda, or even if you don't, and you were watching this tonight and think, wow, that looks like a little bit of fun, you can head over to their website, vt.alttp.run. You can generate your own seeds. In addition to this particular play method, there's a whole bunch of other play methods. They have retro, they have key sanity, lots of different options, and there's a lot of fun to be had if you're interested in trying this out yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot again. Once again, guys, we're going to sign off now. Please enjoy some more rando on some of these channels. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Good night, everybody.